Welcome to What's on Yours, a weekly chat about books, movies, music, and TV. I'm Michael Hennessy.
And I'm Cindy Smith.
So, Cindy, we have a special theme going on this week.
Yes, Freedom to Read Week here in Canada, which is the equivalent to Banned Book Week in the US that happens in September.
Okay. Okay, great. So, we're going to talk about all the things that somebody somewhere thinks that you shouldn't read or listen to or watch.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I know the big ones have always been like the Fahrenheit 451 type thing, the book burning, the banned books. Well, there's a couple that come to my mind. To Kill a Mockingbird, I know we both had that in high school. That's been one. Canada is somewhat different than the United States with the types of books that are banned. Or it's not so much banned outright, it's more the challenges to the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And, from coast to coast, there's somebody who's going to take offense at pretty much anything that you can name. I mean, sampling from the list of challenges in Canada, I mean, it's been from ancient Greek plays like Antigone by Sophocles, you got Clockwork Orange, a more modern book. There's tons of books that have been challenged as being unsuitable for either children or just unsuitable for everyone.
That's right.
Including the Human Rights Act of Canada. There had been a thing in there about hate speech where you weren't allowed to promote hateful publications towards any identifiable group. And we also have the upcoming legislation of Bill C-51. It could also put a restriction on what people are able to say. But part of the Human Rights Act was stripped out, but it's also in the criminal code as far as hate speech goes. That's one thing that differentiates Canada from the U.S. a little bit.
That's it. And our list is much smaller than the US. I think
Right.
there's not even like 10 books on the list.
Well, I mean, one of the big things with banned books, especially in the States, is because of their history with the Civil War and the slavery in the southern part of the United States. I mean, there are many more books in the southern part of the States that have to deal with requests for banning because of any kind of positive nature of blacks. Huckleberry Finn, the African American positive portrayal of any book tends to get opposition in the southern states by somebody,
Yeah.
and that comes back to Kill a Mockingbird
That's
as well.
it. What books do you have on your reading list?
Well, To Kill a Mockingbird is a good one because the news came out not that long ago. But Harper Lee's doing a second book finally after such a huge gap of decades.
Decades.
And I've never actually read the book by Nabokov, Lolita. I did a little research into it, and the content of it, what it's about, it's very off-putting,
Okay.
but it's been so frequently referred to as a classic of modern literature, and Stanley Kubrick's adaptation into a movie. I'll give it a chance. I'll read it at least once. So I'm going to give that a try.
Haven't read it.
Never read it? No.
Never read it.
It's yeah. I'll give it a chance just because someone said I shouldn't. It's on the. Otherwise I wouldn't have. I wouldn't be picking this book up to read it if someone somewhere hadn't said you can't read this.
Good choice.
What about yours?
I'm gonna reread To Kill a Mockingbird.
Great choice.
That's one of the few books that I will actually reread. And I've been reading Maclean's magazine because that's on the band challenge, I guess, for content and stuff. So I really want to read that.
The Maclean's magazine. It was a columnist. I think Mark Stein. He had been under the Human Rights Act. It was because of the Human Rights Act because of some of his columns about Muslims in Canada a few years ago. So they filed a complaint under that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have it on my iPad in the Next Issue app, so I'm going to read that. And
Oh.
finally, the one I haven't read, but I really want to, is The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a relatively recent novel.
Came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
and they made it into a movie. But the reason I want to read it is because they say there is violence and it's not suitable for the age group.
Okay.
So I want to see what all the fuss is about. And
Right.
just like you, it's a banned book. I want to know why it was banned.
That's right. Dry. That's one of the things about banned books. In some of the towns where they would ban books, libraries, they ban books from the school children from reading them, and libraries would make a prominent display of books that have been banned, which draws people attention to it. Why is it banned?
Exactly.
I think there should be some books that are banned just because they're god awful written. The way they're written is just horrible. There's a few to come to mind that are they're garbage in that they're written very, very poorly.
Yeah. That could be a whole other episode.
Yeah. Like the Razzies for books. You know?
The Razzies for books. Sounds like a plan.
Well, we're talking about the movies. I mean, The Giver was adapted. I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird was adapted as well. Well, a classic with Gregory Peck. I mean, I remember in school I read the book and then we also watched the movie.
Yeah, so did I.
It was a pretty faithful adaptation of it.
Yeah.
You know, and generally the adaptations hew pretty closely to original books, but I mean, if there's still ongoing criticism or opposition, sometimes those things can get dropped out.
That's it.
I mean, like with Lolita, for example, the object of Humbert Humbert's lust is a 12-year-old girl, and Stanley Kubrick that was even too much for him. He moved that from 12 to 16, just sort of on the cusp of what's still taboo but not as horrible. And I think Adrian Lyne did the same sort of thing when she remade it in the 90s. Yeah, because I
don't know.
Again, I wouldn't go read this book if it wasn't somebody didn't tell me. I couldn't read it.
But I think that's because we're parents.
Yeah.
So now we see different things in a different light.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's probably a big reason too. But I think in any case, it's just
yeah.
There are people out there like that.
That's it. So I'm going to read The Giver, and I'm going to plan to watch the movie.
Okay. So that must be out on DVD by now.
Yeah, because I think it came out in August 2014.
Okay, so yeah. So it's got to be out. It's got to, or so if not, pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Now, with the books and the movies, those are two big. Clearly, the big one is books. Books are always the ones that get the brunt of being banned. There's something about the power of words. For the whole Fahrenheit 451 thing. But music also has had a bit of a run-in with people trying to ban it. I mean, Tipper Gore in the 90s trying to get things banned. Rap music particularly. The effort behind parental advisory stickers in the States. Up here, it's not so much in Canada. There hasn't been like a primary driving force behind censorship in Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the FCC in the States and the CRTC up here. The same rough guidelines, in the normal daylight hours, you have to be more sensitive because there's more range of ages listening. But then later on at night, you can increase the language if you want.
But I don't know. Like I've noticed it, like in previous years, how much the music is censored with words and everything, and now maybe I don't really notice it as much.
Well, I know that. I mean, there's not as many songs. First of all, that have swear words in it. I mean, rap is clearly one, and heavy metal is another one that frequently use that.
Yeah.
Rap probably gets a little bit more play on radio than heavy metal. But you got the George Carlin's the 7 words that you can't utter. He went through the list, so those always get bleeped. One thing that kind of bugs me are the words that get removed in radio edits of songs that aren't vulgar. I think there was the Foster the People song "Pumped Up Kicks," and about a story about somebody who's going to do a school shooting, and it bleeps out words like bullet and gun. related to the content of the song, but those aren't profane, those aren't vulgar words.
Yeah.
And that I do have kind of an issue with that. I mean, if the content of the song is so bad that you don't want to risk young children listen to it, don't allow the song on the air.
That's it.
I do have an issue in something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know when I helped set up the radio station downtown, the Phantom radio station, I wasn't doing any deleting of those types of words in the playlist. I mean, if songs came to my attention that had profanities or vulgarities, they weren't played, but otherwise, things weren't touched.
That's it.
You know?
And maybe it's just because I don't listen to rap music. I don't listen to heavy metal music. So maybe that's why I don't notice it as much, is because that's not something we listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, you know, you can always pick up your 50 Cent or your Eminem. But it's kind of interesting. Again, we'll go back. Canada doesn't have as much of an issue with music censorship, but in the U.S. there was, and a big thing. It tended to follow white musicians emulating black musicians, like Elvis. There's a big thing about that, where Elvis the pelvis, and don't listen to Elvis, don't watch him do his gyrations, and then of course it turns into Eminem, the Caucasian that's doing rapping.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's kind of a silliness there.
It is.
There's a racism behind a lot of the places in the United States.
Exactly.
And it's not to make Canada seem like a bastion of everyone gets super along, because we have our own problems.
That's it.
I
think we just pick our battles.
Yeah. And aside from radio and the music, I mean, television. What about you? Have you seen anything on TV that's really struck you as being that shouldn't be on TV kind of thing?
Normally that stuff is like on later at night. Like there's that time frame where they can't show certain things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, usually those are on like Bravo or Lifetime or those other kind of channels where it's not really mainstream.
Right.
And like I said, for us, I mean, half the time we're watching like the Family Channel or something.
Right. I mean, anything that's on the networks like CBC or ABC, CBS, NBC and Fox, those ones, if there's anything remotely a chance of being offensive, they'll put a disclaimer at the start of the show. I mean, they were doing disclaimers at the start of 30 Rock,
Yeah.
And of course, if you have shows on HBO or Showtime or Bravo, I mean, if you're tuning into Sopranos or Deadwood or any of the other current shows, I mean,
yeah,
you kind of know what you're going to be getting into.
It's that little symbol, like right here.
Yeah, TVMA or whatever.
Yeah, and then you get some shows where you wonder why there's like that PG-14 when it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I mean, if you go back, there's that. They're kind of sort of trying to take over or borrow or carry over the rating system from the MPAA and that. And just to touch back on that, I mean, Canada is somewhat different from the United States. The United States, there's the MPAA, which handles the ratings for all across the nation. But Canada, basically, it's left up to the provinces.
Yeah.
Well, for the Maritimes, it's PEI, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia together, and that's handled by the Nova Scotia gambling or outfit, basically. And I think Saskatchewan uses BC's ratings. There's no central thing, but the ratings are very similar to what it is in the States.
Exactly.
And there certainly has been some leniency towards violence. There's much more violence in a PG-13 movie now than I remember seeing in R-rated movies back when I was growing up.
Exactly.
Much more violence and much more realistic violence.
Yeah, even the TV shows are like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more violence than there used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is even some in daytime TV, like there's some language. It's just that stuff would never have happened like years ago during the day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
Times are changing.
Well, I mean, one of the things, especially that children can be exposed to, are some of the titles with game consoles. Like the whole Grand Theft Auto type thing. I mean, seriously, some of the content in that would make a movie rated X.
Yeah.
Or NC-17, easily.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff.
Yeah. See, those kind of video games aren't in our house,
Yeah.
and those video games will not be in our house.
Yeah. I mean those sorts of things. I mean, uh, consoles make an enormous amount of money,
Hmm.
and people are starting to recognize that they are or can be a significant art form. I mean, I think when the Call of Duty, the last Call of Duty came out, or there's a few that are similar. It made like 400 million the first day, where it's just like it breaks the records, and they just sell an enormous amount of them. I mean, that's an amazing amount of revenue coming in.
Yeah.
You know, and especially the first-person shooters. Those are essentially what the U.S. Army used to use like a decade or more ago as basically killing trainers. They're training people how to kill. You know, of course they would have the multiple monitors and stuff like that, and the immersive headgear, but it's not that far away with what people have. You know, with the huge HD TV and the remote the wireless headphones.
Yeah.
But then generally violence is more acceptable
That's it.
in increasing amounts.
It's true. It's not a taboo anymore.
No, it is not. But it's much less seldom to see something challenged or banned because of violence in terms of TV shows or that.
Yeah.
It seems to be much more the sexual nature. If something has any sort of sexuality to it, there's more likely to be a knee-jerk opposition to it. Which seems kind of strange.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the books, movies, music, TV that I was thinking about. Anyway, anything else that you want to add in on what should be banned or should not be banned?
I think it's pretty self-sufficient. Everything's kind of online if they want to read more about it.
Mm-hmm.
See what books have been challenged.
Now, what is the official name of this week theme week in Canada?
Freedom to read.
Freedom to read. Okay. And do you know what that's on, or is that like one of those general themes? Is that through the library, or you know who puts that on?
I'm not quite sure who puts it on. If it's a government thing,
Okay.
or if it's based from libraries.
Okay.
I'm thinking it might be like a library thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of the activities that are happening this week are based out of libraries and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll definitely find out when I head to my library again this Saturday.
That's it.
I'm going to see. They probably don't have Lolita there, but I will go take a look at it, and I will probably wind up on some sort of list somewhere because
That's
I'm
it.
checking out a banned book.
Exactly. Get a little mark beside your name at the
I will
library.
get a mark beside my name. Why is this person taking out this terrible book?
That's it.
Then I'll wind up on a no-fly list somewhere.
Exactly.
When we're on our way to VidCon or one of those other conferences, you know.
Yeah.
I'll
I will be
look
the
at the
person
border.
that says, excuse me, but I don't know him. Sorry, every man for himself.
You want nothing to jeopardize going to BEA, right?
That's right. Have that nice clean record.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any pick this week? You said you're going to have The Giver.
Yeah. To Kill a Mockingbird.
Excellent.
Classic read.
Yep.
Yeah.
That
That's
is
my.
very good.
And yours?
I would pick anything from Farley Mowat just simply because of the current government's proposed Bill C-51 would probably turn Farley Mowat's writing and vocal opposition to what Harper would be doing. He would be classified as an environmental terrorist. So I say pick up anything like Never Cry Wolf or No Bird Sang. Pick up. He's a Canadian icon, and I think people really owe it to themselves to go back and read some Farley Mowat.
That's it.
Yep. And that is it. And then I really hope it warms up because we have been going through a cold stretch here. I got my sweater and my knit sweater on top. So
I was just going to say, is your heat on there because you look really cold?
You know, even though it's warm in here, it's so cold outside. It's like it does something to my joints. Like I'm so
Yeah,
old.
I hear you. It was like that last week here.
So,
Yeah.
all right, and then
We're almost there. We're almost to the
we're
end.
almost there. Spring is only a few weeks
The
away.
light is at the end of the tunnel. I can see it.
You know, speaking of light at the end of the tunnel, at supper time, it is not pitch black outside, so spring is coming.
That's it. I like
The
that.
days are getting longer. Thank
Days are
goodness.
getting longer.
Uh,
Almost there. Like a month or so to go.
Righto. And then not too long from now, we'll be doing a show about all things Irish. St. Patrick's
Irish
Day's coming
Easter.
up,
That is.
and then the Easter Bunny.
And the Easter Bunny.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the talk about all things that people think we shouldn't think or talk about. So I appreciate that, and we'll talk again next week on What's on Yours.
Have a good week.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.